Good morning, everyone. It's Rabbi Dr. Jack Cohen. While you may know me as being famous for being the guru of dating and shalom bayis, today is a very auspicious day. It's Gimel Mar Cheshvan. Today is the day which is the yortzai of Maran, Hacham Ovadia Yosef, the great posek and the great Sara Torah, the great Prince of Torah. So I thought it would be an auspicious opportunity today to speak about his greatness. I and my family, Baruch Hashem, we had a tremendous legacy with the rabbi. As you may know, the rabbi left Israel to go to Cairo, Egypt in the 1940s in order to establish a yeshiva there. He was sent there by Rav Azar, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of Purat Yosef from Yerushalayim, to be the Av Beit Din there and to establish Torah there. My family hails from Cairo, Egypt. It was originally from Syria, but from Cairo, Egypt, where I was born. So I wanted to share a beautiful picture with you today. This picture is a memento that I cherish. And this is a picture of Rav Ovadia Yosef. You could see him right here. The camera's going to zoom in on it. In the very corner is my uncle, my father's brother, Isaac Cohen. My two uncles, Isaac Cohen and Meyer Cohen, were esteemed Talmidim of the rabbi. This is Isaac Cohen, my uncle. So the rabbi and our family, Baruch Hashem, have a tremendous connection. It goes back into the middle of the last century. And as well, the very same picture which I just showed you is one of the main biographies of Rav Ovadia. This is a biography in Hebrew of Ovadia, and we see the very same picture of the rabbi, Rav Ovadia Yosef, in the middle with his students in Cairo, Egypt, and my uncle Isaac Cohen was my father's cherished brother right in the corner. Thank God my two uncles were great students of his. I recall when I was a young child in the 1970s that Rav Ovadia came to America as he was the chief rabbi of Israel. My uncle Meyer Cohen had written songs to greet him at the airport. He had the pleasure and he had the honor and the merit to have learned with the rabbi over 15 Masechtot of Gemara. With that in mind, tzaddikim get great pleasure from having someone speak about their Torah after they leave this world. As our rabbis tell us that tzaddikim, their greatest strength is after they leave this world. When we hear and read the Rav Ovadia Yosef, not only are we doing something for ourselves by becoming better through what we learn about this great man, but we're also helping his neshama. Every rabbi in the Torah, every tzaddik wants his neshama or his soul to rise even to greater heights even after his death. There are those who say that since the time of Moshe Rabbeinu and Aharon, his brother, there has never been a funeral as large as that of Rav Ovadia Yosef. Would you believe that close to either 850,000 to 1 million people were at his funeral? That's about 15% of the population of the whole country of Israel. That means that there was a mix of people there, and it was incredible. Sephardic Jews, Ashkenazic Jews, Hasidic Jews, Litvish Jews, religious Jews, non-religious Jews, men, women, children from all walks of life. Everyone wanted to be there and to attend. Why? Even from the government, officials came, grocery store employees came, prominent rabbis to the simple layman. They all felt compelled to be at the funeral of this great man. Why? Why was there such an incredible mixture of people at his funeral? We think that there are many ways to answer that question. Perhaps more than anything else was Rav Ovadia Yosef's love of Torah. He studied Torah every possible second of his life, and that began when he was a child. As he grew older, his passion for Torah grew beyond his own learning. He devoted much of his time to making sure that others would learn Torah as well. He was concerned that every person in Israel should learn, and every person should make sure his children should learn Torah as well. Whatever his position was in life, Rav Ovadia, even was chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, and when he became rabbi of all the Sfardim of Eretz Israel, he would physically go out and bring Jews to Torah. He would travel by bus. He didn't care about his honor. He would go from city to city, from small town to small town, from kibbutz to kibbutz, from apartment house to private houses, knocking on doors and asking the residents if they intended to register their children in a religious Torah school. He would even hand them the forms and help them fill it out, and then accompany the parents to the school to ensure the forms got there. He never thought it was beneath his dignity at all to plead so that Jews would learn Torah. When he attended graduations, he told students to continue in a Torah environment, to attend a religious high school, to be sure to be part of a religious crowd. If a person was not religious, Rav Ovadia would never ask any questions about it. He didn't care. He would stress that even if you're not religious, send your children to school, to a religious school. Do you know that if your little daughter comes home saying that the family should light candles, perhaps that will change the attitude of the house and her mother would light candles, and often that happened. He knew that if every little boy came home from school saying they want to eat kosher, the parents would eventually follow suit and eat kosher. Rav Ovadia never asked how religious a person was. He loved every Jew. He was easy to talk to. He would get up and tell stories. He traveled all over the country in Israel, from the north to the south, spreading his message, as did Shmuel HaNavi, Shmuel the prophet, long ago. The Yalkut Shmoni tells us that before the first great temple, the Beit HaMikdash, was built, people would go to the Mishkan, which was the preceder to the great temple, in Shiloh. Elkanah had a big wagon, And every year, this is Shmuel's father, and every year before the holidays, he would take the whole family, load them into the wagon, and traverse a different route through the country every year. Each year, the people would ask, where are you taking your family this year, Elkanah? And he would answer, come with us. We're going to see the Kohanim, to see the priests serve Hashem at the tabernacle, the Mishkan in Shiloh. Like Elkanah, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef would travel a different route each time he would traverse the country to reach more and more Jews. Hashem said to Elkanah, because you were interested in inspiring other Jews, I'll give you a child who'll be the greatest of all. Shmuel HaNavi became his son, Shmuel the prophet. The reward of Elkanah's outreach was his son. And that's the lesson of Ovadia Yosef's life. He traveled from town to town to bring others close to Torah and Hashem. We should all contact our own relatives or neighbors or co-workers that are not observant, and we should invite them to our homes for Shabbos or Yom Tov or Chanukah. Hacham Ovadia used to say, always speak softly, especially when speaking Torah to a Baal Tshuva. He said over and over again that all Jews have a spark of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism with them. And if you just speak gently, you can fan that spark into a great flame. Hacham Ovadia himself had a smile on his face. He never raised his voice. He never spoke harshly to anyone. He used to remind everyone that the ways of the Torah are ways of pleasantness, and all its pathways always lead to peace. His love for every Jew, his Ahavat Yisrael, was truly legendary. When he was older, Hacham Ovadia had a weak heart and once required emergency surgery. He was told the operation would take 3 hours. He said, well, tell the surgeons I cannot go now. They'll have to wait. When asked why, Hacham Ovadia explained, well, this is a serious surgery. They're worried I might not survive the surgery. But right now I'm in the middle of writing an answer to a query that's been brought to me, a legal question about a woman who's an agunah. An agunah is a woman whose husband, they don't know his whereabouts. Did he die? Did he not die? He just vanished. And as a result, such a woman is stuck and can't remarry. And he was trying to make an effort to be able to release her from her marital obligations, and as a result, she will be able to remarry. I have to finish this legislation and this question so she can remarry. If I leave this unfinished and I don't survive the surgery, she'll never have that opportunity again to remarry. So he risked his life to delay his own cardiac surgery in order to help a woman to be able to have the privilege and opportunity to remarry. He finished it, and only then did he allow himself to be taken to the operating room. Hacham Ovadia never wasted a moment. He always had a book available, a sefer. He was always learning. In Hanof, where he lived, a terrible fire broke out a few buildings away from his building. The owner was not exactly wealthy, and he needed $50,000 for repairs from the damage of the fire. He went to Rabbi Ovadia and asked if he could help. Of course, the rabbi did not have that much money, but he sat with the man and reviewed the situation, saying perhaps they would be able to raise funds somehow. As they sat there, someone knocked on the door. A very wealthy Jew entered and said, Rabbi, you've been the sandik for many of my grandchildren. As you know, the sandik is the person who holds the baby in the bris. I just had another grandson. Could the rabbi please be sandik? Rabbi Ovadia asked, where is the bris? And the man told him, it's going to be in the city of Bnei Brak. Oh, the rabbi said, I have a new policy. I don't leave Jerusalem. If you want to bring the baby to me, I'll be more than happy to serve as sandik. But I cannot give up 4 hours to travel to Bnei Brak and back. Such was the value of the rabbi's time. The man pleaded with the rabbi, saying he will give him anything if he please would accept the invitation and accept the honor to be sandik. The rabbi refused, and the man turned to leave. Wait, the rabbi called. I have an idea. If you give my friend here money to repair his apartment, I'll come to the bris in Bnei Brak. The wealthy man asked the other man for his name, took out his checkbook, and wrote out a check for the full amount right there, $50,000. The Chacham said, Mazel Tov, I'm coming. But then the apartment owner, Nisim, took the check and ripped it up. The rabbi said, what are you doing? Nisim explained to the owner of the apartment that had the damages, because of me, you should lose 4 hours of learning, Hacham Ovadia? It's not worth it. He knew what learning meant to this great man. The Chacham and Nisim started reviewing the situation again. The rabbi told Nisim that a new area was being built near Ramat Bet Shemesh and advised him, sell your apartment in Hanof, even with the fire damage, because it's a good apartment in a desirable location. You'll get good money for it. The rabbi told him he should buy in the new development in Ramat Bet Shemesh and all would be well. Nisim did exactly that. However, once he settled there, he looked for a Sephardi minyan, but he couldn't find one. One day he stopped a fellow on the street and introduced himself. He told the man he just moved from Hanof and he couldn't believe that there was no Sephardic minyan in that area in Ramat Bet Shemesh. The two began talking, and Nisim mentioned how much he would like to build a Bet Midrash in his father's name. The other man asked him, where are you from originally? Morocco, came the reply from Nisim. What's your last name? The other man asked. Nisim told him, and the man asked, are you the son of the grocer of that town? He said he was. The other man was stunned. Your father was such a righteous man, a tzaddik. When I was a boy, my family, we lived in that city and we were very poor. Your father gave us food on credit and never asked for repayment. You know, today, thank God I'm wealthy. I'll build you a base medrash, a house of study in your father's name, right here. And he did. And that's what happens when you follow the advice of a great tzaddik. And this man, Nissim, certainly followed Rabbi Ovadia's advice and only saw good from it. Ovadia Yosef's most famous sefer is called Yabiya Omer. He wrote over 50 Sfarim, 50 books. The title Yabiya Omer comes from the pasuk we say every Shabbos morning from Tehillim, and it says there, Hashemayim misarpirim kevod el, yom leyom Yabiya Omer. The heavens declare the glory of God. Day following day speaks expressions of praise. Yabiya, which in this word is expressions of praise, is spelled Yud Kev, Yud Beis, Yud Ayin, which when read backwards spells out Ovadia Yosef ben Yaakov. What is that important? Ovadia Yosef's true family name was Ovadia, not Yosef as we know it. When he was born, his father Yaakov wanted to name him after a grandfather named Ovadia, who had been murdered by a rioting Arab mob. He was also named Yosef after the famous Rabbi Yosef Chaim, who was the Ben Ish Chai, the great posek and Kabbalist from Baghdad, from Iraq, the Ben Ish Chai. If so, his name should have been Ovadia Yosef Ovadia. When he grew older, Chacham Ovadia dropped the final Ovadia. His family kept Yosef as the last name. Chacham Ovadia was very grateful and loving towards his parents, who encouraged him to sit and learn Torah even though they were such simple people. When Chacham Ovadia became a rabbi, the Sephardic custom entitled him to wear a certain rabbinic coat, the kaftan, the beautiful coat that Sephardic chief rabbis always wear. But he didn't put it on until he went to his parents' home and showed it to his mother. He donned it for the first time so that his mother could have nachas and pleasure to see her son wearing that beautiful kaftan, the robe that is worn by Sephardic chief rabbis. Once while he was a teenager, he came home from yeshiva, Porat Yosef, very late, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and the door was locked. He knew his parents were sleeping and he didn't want to wake them up. So Ovadia sat on the step and learned there until the morning by heart. Later, when his father opened the door in the morning to leave the house, he was startled and asked, "Son, what are you doing here?" "Well, I didn't want to wake you," Ovadia replied to his father. Chacham Ovadia Yosef's parents were poor. His father Yaakov was a grocer in Yerushalayim and often asked Ovadia to open the store for him, telling him that he would relieve him a few hours later. "Please go open it and I'll come and relieve you." Chacham Ovadia would much rather have gone to yeshiva to learn, but kibud av, or respecting your father, required him to do as his father asked him to do. One day, to Chacham Ovadia's father's surprise, he got to the store and found none other than the chief of the dean of the school, Chacham Atiya, the Rosh Yeshiva of Porat Yosef, Yeshivat Porat Yosef, behind the counter. Yaakov asked, "What is the Rosh Yeshiva doing here?" He was so embarrassed. And so Chacham Atiya explained that he understood that the young Ovadia was needed to help out in the store, but he, Rav Ezra, could not let him do that. Why not? Because he told Rav Ovadia's father, "You don't realize your son Ovadia is going to be one of the great stars of the coming generation. It was better instead that he should go learn and either the dean should come and take care and attend to the store." And after that, Chacham Ovadia's father never again asked his son to help out in the store. In 1984, a new political party was started in Israel. Chacham Ovadia called it Shas. We always thought that it stood for the usual meaning, which is Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, the 6 volumes of the Mishnah, which is the acronym for Shas. But Chacham Ovadia had in mind an additional thought, Shomei Sfaradim. It also stands for Shomei Shin Sin, could be also guardian of the Sfaradim. What a brilliant double meaning. Chacham Ovadia's motto was, his whole legacy was La'achzir Torah Liyoshna. My mission in this world is to restore the Torah crown to its original glory. He strove his whole life to restore the legacy of the great Sephardic rabbis, such as the Rambam, Maimonides, the Bet Yosef, who was the compiler of all the Shulchan Aruch and the Rif, so that it would become a source of pride to all Sfaradim. Whether they were Yemenites, or Bukharians, Iranians, Iraqis, Moroccans, Syrians, it meant no difference to him. He just wanted the prestige and the standards of the Torah learning and scholarship of the Sfaradim to rise again as it once had. One way he set out to accomplish that was by strongly advocating that all Sfaradim follow the customs of Rabbi Yosef Karo, the great posek, found in the Bet Yosef and Shulchan Aruch. Chacham Ovadia answered each of them by saying that in Israel there was only one custom for all Sfaradim. He convinced all the rabbis to unite. Because of that, there has been a tremendous revival of Sephardic life in Israel. Hundreds of mikvaot, or ritual places of women to dip in the mikvah, have been built. Thousands of children have become religious. And millions of dollars have gone to Sephardi schools because of his incredible commitment to helping the whole country. As Chacham Ovadia grew older, his eyes grew weaker, which is why he always wore dark glasses. When he realized that he was becoming blind, he went to the burial place of the Bet Yosef and he cried, "Maram Bet Yosef, you know that what I've done for you. I've established that your laws and customs are now the laws and customs of all Sfaradim in Israel, the entire country. Please intervene for me in heaven." if I'm blind, I won't be able to learn Torah. Please help me. And he cried at the kever, the burial place of the Beit Yosef. He left the burial place, the kever, and he went home in Yerushalayim. He put on the dark lenses, and from that moment on, his vision stopped deteriorating. Rav Ovadia was able to rally Sfaradim, not just in Israel, but all over the world. He truly was successful being Machzir Atal Yoshna. He was able to restore the crown to its original glory. In one of the books about Rav Ovadia's life, the following story is told. One night, Rav Ovadia was debating with himself whether he should continue to speak to the public as he often did, because it was causing him to lose time from learning and writing his books. That night he had a dream. In his dream, the great Ben Ish Chai came to his house, and he went over to his desk. He looked at what Rav Ovadia was writing in his dream and complimented him. And Rav Ovadia said to the Ben Ish Chai, I'm so proud that you like what I'm writing. I feel, as the Pasuk states in Shir HaShirim, they made me keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard I have not kept. I'm so busy helping everyone, Rav Ovadia said in his dream to the great Ben Ish Chai, that I can't finish my own work to write my own books. And the Ben Ish Chai responded to him, everyone knows that books are important and writing books are important and necessary. Nevertheless, even more important at the present moment are the powerful, inspiring speeches that people hear and from which they're motivated to change. You must keep speaking to the public and inspiring them. And that is, of course, what Ovadia Yosef did. We have to listen and we read about this great man. We have to think about his incredible legacy and what he did for Klal Yisrael. And we have to do whatever we can today in order to help his neshama having greater and greater heights. And then we be zocher that we should also learn Torah with his commitment and with his desire. And we should all grow up to be B'nai Torah and build homes of B'nai Torah, so that we should always be able to bring Mashiach. Thank you.